So, if you've been keeping up with gaming news and trends over the past couple of years, you may have noticed a large amount of new anime games coming into the spotlight. And with 2025 coming to an end, we're starting to see many of these games get released and even more anime games getting announced. But what's really interesting about all these games coming out, they're copycats. There are so many anime style games that are coming out that look and play just like many of your favorite popular titles. I'm sure you've all heard of Neverness to Everness, the anime version or counterpart to GTA, or Ananta, which was formerly Project Mugen, the GTA, Spider-Man, Yakuza, everything inspired game. But these are not the only titles I'm talking about here. We also have Stranova, which is obviously inspired by Valorant and Counter-Strike, Fate Trigger, which looks and plays exactly like PUBG, Duet Night Abyss, inspired by Warframe, Nexus Anima, inspired by TFT and Pokemon, Petite Planet, which looks exactly like Animal Crossing, Azure Promelia, which looks like it's inspired by Palworld, Rewinding Cadence. Okay, this is a Elden Ring, D&D, Baldur's Gate, GTA, Choices Matter. Brother, I'm telling you, there's so many of these games coming out or being announced that take inspiration from all over the place, and you can't even call them copycats anymore because like they just take features of so many games and incorporate it into an anime aesthetic. And there are so many more that I didn't even mention. So what's going on? What made all of these game studios start doing this out of the blue? Well, it all started in 2020 with the major success of Genshin Impact, which back then made headlines for being the anime Breath of the Wild clone. And obviously, as many of you know, Genshin Impact has a very different reputation these days, maybe for the worse. But regardless, since Genshin came out, plenty of companies have been trying to cash in on the free-to-play open-world anime RPG genre and do exactly what Genshin did. Now, Genshin was not the first game of its kind to come out, but it definitely was what took the genre into the mainstream. Now fast forward 5 years later and the so-called Genshin killers are out in troves. But that's not too unusual, right? Popular games get copied all the time, you know, that's a given. But what's happening now is that instead of copying Genshin or Breath of the Wild, all these new games are copying a wider variety of genres and then putting a Genshin Impact / anime aesthetic over it, which is really interesting and why I wanted to talk about it in this video. But what does that mean for gamers, for consumers, people like you and me? Well, first of all, if you're into anime, you know, this is great for you because now every single genre of game you can think of has an anime equivalent, and they're usually free to play. But in terms of the overall industry, I think it benefits everybody because it adds more competition to the scene, you know, which makes better products for consumers, and it makes companies more conscious of what people want because they want people to play their game instead of their competitors. And we're seeing a lot of these things take shape last year, especially with the release of Marvel Rivals. A lot of people considered it to be a shameless copy of Overwatch, but since Marvel Rivals release, even Overwatch realized the competition and started making a lot of improvements to the game. And I think overall, both sides, whether you play Marvel Rivals or Overwatch, you're happy that both games are competing against each other and making each game better in their own right. This is what's happening with all these other games. You know, before they didn't have this kind of competition. There was always people in the same genre, but they never competed with each other on the same scale. And I think overall, that's a really, really good thing. And remember, the games I'm talking about are all free to play. All the games that I mentioned so far are free to play games, and usually they're also playable on mobile devices, making these games have a very, very low cost of entry. This means that you don't have to buy a fancy $500 console or have a really beefy PC to experience these games. All you really need is a smartphone, tablet, or laptop, and you can hop on and enjoy the game for free, which makes it great for casual people who don't have the means or desire to spend a ton of money on games and tech. This is a very good business tactic, right? For example, my girlfriend, me and her have played Genshin Impact every day together for like 3 years. And I don't even like the game that much. And she doesn't even like the game that much. We just played it because it's one of the only games we could play together that could run on her laptop. And we could play together and have fun. And it's something that we both have mutual interest in. And even if the game wasn't always fun, it's fun because we were playing together. So for people like us, accessibility is super important. And it's a huge factor for most people when they decide if they want to invest their time and money into a game. These games are trying to provide quality experiences with a very low cost of entry, and then provide people with games that they were not able to access otherwise because of all these other factors, right? If you want to play GTA, you're gonna have to pay $80 and then like buy a PS5 for $500. You could do that, or you could download the free anime version on your phone. Why not? Or play it on your laptop. That's the business model that these companies are going for. And I know what a lot of you are thinking, right? They have these predatory gacha monetization systems which you don't support. I understand that, which is true for most of these games. They do usually have a gacha system, or where you gamble for characters and you roll. You can spend real world money to get more rolls, or you could just play a lot of the games, do events, do daily missions and whatnot to get rolls for these games. But in 2025, games like Duet Night Abyss and Ananso, which I talked about before, are moving past this gacha gambling, pulling for characters and weapons systems, and they're replacing them for a monetization system that is more inviting and consumer friendly. And these are major changes in the scene. If you've been keeping up, most of the games, like I said, that have this aesthetic usually go for a gacha monetization system, but now the scene is really changing, and I think for the better, which makes a lot of sense. There's a lot of people that don't like the gacha system, and when they see it, they're immediately put off because, oh, I don't want to support this, or I don't want to be involved with a game like this. But now that this is changing, and we'll see if other games follow suit, there really is less and less obstacles for games like this to be successful. So not only are these games becoming more accessible, the alternatives, the AAA alternatives, are becoming more and more inaccessible. These AAA games are coming out with $80 price tags, day one DLCs, daily login stuff, expensive battle passes, cosmetics, and other stuff, all this yada 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 on day one. On the release, they have these season passes and all this junk. And now their anime counterparts are putting a lot of effort into making their monetization more consumer oriented. It's crazy. It's crazy how everything is getting turned around. And if we use Marvel Rivals to compare the monetization systems with Overwatch, both of the games are free to download, right? But the cosmetics in Overwatch are way more expensive than those in Rivals. And in my opinion, they're better quality as well. So just because of that, Marvel Rivals seems to be winning over a ton of players, and a ton of people decided to switch to Marvel Rivals from Overwatch because they take care of the players more, and they consider what the players want in terms of monetization. And we're seeing this happen with other genres too. The companies are basically copy pasting a whole game and then just making it cheaper to play and to get the things that you want. It's a business strategy that works. Again, we've seen it at play and it's working. But again, a lot of these games have not come out yet, so we'll see whether or not it's actually true for most of them. Are people gonna move from TFT to play Nexus Anima? Are people gonna play Duet Night Abyss over Warframe? I don't know. At this point, it's still inconclusive, and at the end of the day, only the players can decide. But I can tell you that I have played some of these games because I use my YouTuber privileges to get into closed beta tests, and I can tell you from experience that these games are fun. I haven't played all of them, but the ones that I did play are very easy to just pick up and play, and they're just fun. For example, Duet Night Abyss, right? I played back in spring of this year in the closed beta test, and I really enjoyed it. Back then, it was still a gacha game, which, as I said, now they've changed, and I think it's for the better. So I can't really talk about the current state of the game, but when I did play it, I enjoyed it a lot, and I think I will play it over its counterpart Warframe, because I like Warframe a lot, but the thing is, there's just so much stuff in Warframe that I just don't want to do, right? There's just annoying fluff in the game. Obviously, it's also free to play, but there's like daily standing caps, and you have to do fishing and mining and all this tedious stuff just to rank up and get to where you actually want to go. I just don't want to do that. I don't want to log in daily and do missions and then grind endlessly and go fishing and mining and do a bunch of stuff I don't want to do. I just want to play the game. In my time playing Duet Night Abyss, I think the story was pretty decent, but the thing that really sold it for me was just playing the game. You can play the game, grind mods, grind level ups, and it just felt so good to just play the game. And it didn't have all this annoying, tedious stuff in it. And now that it's not gacha anymore, and you can allegedly get all the characters in the game just by playing, and you don't have to spend money, it's going to be very interesting what players are going to think of this game that's coming out in like the next couple of weeks. And I definitely can see a lot of people making the switch from Warframe to Duet Night Abyss, because I will. But that's just one of the examples. The beta tests that I tried out were all pretty fun, not gonna lie. And this could be a big deal for the industry. And even if these games aren't for you, like you don't like the anime aesthetic or you don't like the culture of it, I guess, even if you're not into that, it's still good for you because it's making the gaming space more competitive and making companies think more about their consumers rather than their profit margins. Because these new games that are coming out, they're more humble, right? They want people to come over to their game and try it out and stay for the long run. They're gonna be more generous and make things cheaper and more affordable for you, you know, just so you'll try the game out. And I think that's a really good mentality to have. That a lot of these established game companies, they don't have this mentality anymore because they can just put out whatever it is and people will still be excited and still buy the game and they'll make billions of dollars. And I don't even have to tell you what companies I'm talking about because you already have an idea in your head of exactly who I'm trying to reference. So these games coming out is a big win for you and me. Maybe not entirely, like I like anime games. I'm just not really a big fan of the Gooner stuff, like the jiggle physics and all that. But anything that's free, I like, and I want to try. If it's free and fun, then I'm all in, right? So the next few months are going to be really interesting. A lot of the games that I talked about today are going to come out in the next few months, or at least their beta tests are going to start and all this fun stuff, which I hope to be a part of. I got invited to some. I wish, I mean, I play every game that invites me to a beta test. I really do. Hasn't been many, but I love signing up for these tests and I love just giving my information to companies for free, I guess. I don't know. But anyway, that's gonna be it for this video. Let me know in the comment section what games you are excited for in this year and in the next year. Don't forget to like the video, subscribe to the channel for whatever kind of content this is. I usually just make Marvel Rivals videos, but nowadays I just do whatever because the YouTube algorithm is so cooked. So anyway, thanks for watching. See you next time. Like the video, subscribe to the channel, and peace. Thanks for watching.